Gather round, friends, and lend an ear to the embers of the unexplained. Percy Hawthorne here, your guide through the dusty archives of the extraordinary. Tonight's file, pulled from the shelves marked Marconi's Ghost of Cape Cod, crackles not just with the static of the past, but with a chilling signal from a future no one anticipated. It's a tale woven from salty air, forgotten whispers, and the terrifying responsibility that comes with tuning into the wrong frequency. The wind off Cape Cod Bay carried the scent of brine and decayed marsh grass, biting through the worn flannel shirt of Finn Carter. He shivered, not entirely from the cold October air, but from the sheer weight of history pressing down on the desolate stretch of dunes near South Wellfleet. Before him, skeletal timbers, bleached white by decades of sun and scoured by relentless Atlantic gales, clawed at the gray sky. This was all that remained of Guglielmo Marconi's audacious South Wellfleet wireless station. In 1903, it had crackled with the future, bridging continents with invisible sparks. And, according to local lore muffled by fog and time, it had also crackled with something else. Voices that weren't human, signals that defied tracing, whispers on the wind that sent hardened fishermen scrambling for shore. Finn, a bear of a man with perpetually wind-tousled hair and eyes bright with an enthusiast fervor, saw not ruins but potential. His YouTube channel, Static and Specters, thrived on the intersection of vintage tech and the paranormal, recreating Marconi's station, using meticulously researched replicas of spark gap transmitters and coherer receivers built in his cluttered garage, was his magnum opus. Tonight, live streamed to his modest but dedicated following. He aimed to pierce the veil, to hear the echoes of those 1903 enigmas. Inside his converted shipping container studio, crammed with gleaming copper coils, antique vacuum tubes humming softly, and banks of modern spectrum analyzers, Finn adjusted his headset. The camera's red light blinked. All right, static heads, we are live from ground zero of maritime mystery. Feel that? That's not just the Atlantic chill. That's history breathing down our necks. Tonight, we light up the ghost of Marconi himself. His voice boomed with forced bravado, masking the tremor of genuine awe. He threw a heavy switch. A deafening crack split the air, followed by a sustained, angry buzz as blue-white sparks leapt between the transmitter's brass spheres. The smell of ozone flooded the small space. Outside, the skeletal timbers seemed to groan in response. Hours passed. Finn broadcast snippets of Morse code, historical anecdotes, dramatic readings of old fishermen's log entries describing the devil's whispers on foggy nights. His audience chatted excitedly online, but the airwaves remained stubbornly silent beyond the expected crackle and pop of his own transmitter and distant commercial traffic. Disappointment began to gnaw at him. Then, as the witching hour approached and a thick, clammy fog rolling off the bay, swallowing the dunes whole, the coherer receiver, a delicate glass tube filled with iron filings, suddenly chattered. Not Morse, not any human pattern Finn recognized. It was a rapid, staccato clicking, interspersed with guttural, modulated tones that vibrated deep in the bones. Whoa! Contact! Do you hear that? Finn leaned closer, his breath fogging the glass. The sound wasn't just audible. It seemed to pulse through the metal frame of the container, a physical pressure in the air. His modern analyzers went berserk, displaying waveforms of impossible complexity, frequencies dancing erratically across the screen. This is an atmospheric noise. This isn't anything I've ever heard. A thrill warred with sudden, primal unease. The chat exploded. Sound like gargling rocks. Finn found the ghosts. Run, dude. Unseen by Finn or his viewers, the signal did something else. It resonated with something ancient and buried deep beneath the shifting sands of the outer Cape, miles offshore. Something dormant for millennia stirred, registering the call. A low-frequency hum, imperceptible to human ears, but felt as a subliminal tremor by sea life, pulsed outward from the deep. 2 days later, the unease hadn't left Finn. It had burrowed deeper. The strange signals returned every foggy night, stronger, more insistent. They weren't random. He'd recorded hours, running them through every decryption algorithm he knew. Nothing. Worse, the atmosphere around the station felt charged. The normally boisterous gulls were silent. The salt grass seemed brittle, dying prematurely. A persistent metallic taste coated his tongue. He needed expertise far beyond his own. Desperation led him to a name whispered in obscure online forums dedicated to the truly inexplicable: Gabriel Sterling. Gabriel Sterling sat in a worn leather armchair in his book-crammed study, overlooking a quieter stretch of the Cape Cod national seashore. Late afternoon sun slanted through the window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. He was a man who carried stillness with him. Late 30s perhaps, with eyes the color of weathered sea glass that seemed to see beyond the surface of things. A former linguistics professor whose fascination with the fundamental structures of communication had led him down stranger paths, he now consulted for scientific horizons, a discrete foundation investigating anomalies that defy conventional science. His fingers traced the grooves on an ancient Sumerian tablet replica, but his mind was elsewhere. He felt prickling, a dissonance in the ambient hum of the world. It wasn't a sound, more like a sour note played on the strings of reality itself, emanating vaguely north, towards Wellfleet. He'd felt similar disturbances before, near sites of ecological trauma, near places heavy with unresolved sorrow. This felt different, sharper, older, and utterly alien. His phone buzzed. The ID showed Milo Hart. A smile, rare and genuine, touched Gabriel's lips. Where Gabriel was stillness, Milo was kinetic energy barely contained. "Gabe, you feel that? That weird tingle? Like someone plugged the ocean into a faulty socket? Also, Finn Carter, static inspectors guy, he's blowing up my DMs. Says he got signals from Marconi's ghost station that are making his teeth itch and his grass die. Sounds like our kind of Tuesday." Milo's voice, even filtered through the phone, was a burst of warmth and chaotic enthusiasm. Milo Hart, Gabriel's partner in navigating the world's weird corners, was a human spark plug. Similar in age to Gabriel, he juggled part-time barista shifts at the quirky Cosmic Cup in Provincetown, improv comedy nights that were legendary or infamous, depending on who you asked, and organizing surprisingly successful fundraisers for fringe research groups, often disguised as themed karaoke nights. His mind was a steel trap for trivia and sensory detail, and he possessed an uncanny knack for sensing approaching weirdness, a cosmic intuition he attributed to too much espresso and late-night reruns of The X-Files. "Teeth itching and dying grasp the lines of my discomfort," Gabriel replied, his voice low and measured. "Finn Carter?" The vintage radio enthusiast attempting to revive Marconi's station. "The very same. He's freaked out, Gabe. Says the signals are structured, complex. Not ghosts, he thinks. Or not our kind of ghosts. My gut's doing the Macarena. This feels big and potentially messy. Want to take a drive? I'll bring coffee. The good beans." An hour later, Gabriel's sturdy Jeep pulled up beside Finn's shipping container studio. The metallic tang in the air was palpable even before they stepped out. Milo bounded out of the passenger seat, a thermos in one hand, a paper bag smelling of fresh pastries in the other, his eyes wide as he scanned the dunes and the skeletal remains. Whoa, places vibes. Serious. Forgot to pay its cosmic rent vibes. He wrinkled his nose. And what is that smell? Burnt pennies and low tide. Gabriel stepped out, closing his eyes for a moment. He didn't just smell the air. He felt it. A low thrum of anxiety. Fins, sharp and recent. Underlying it. Something vast, cold, and utterly devoid of anything recognizable as emotion. Purpose. Ancient, relentless purpose. It scraped against his senses like metal on stone. He opened his eyes, his expression grave. It's not just here. It's connected. Deep. Finn emerged from the container, looking like he hadn't slept. He ushered them inside, the air thick with ozone and the residual energy of the powerful transmitter. Banks of equipment hummed. He played the recordings, the guttural clicks, the modulated tones, the complex waveforms. It repeats, see? Every 37.8 minutes, like clockwork. Strongest during fog. It's building. An environment, look. He gestured to a potted fern near a window, its leaves brown and curling. Happened overnight after the first strong signal. Milo inhaled sharply as the recording played. His hand went unconsciously to his stomach. Yep, Macarena confirmed. Big, stompy, alien Macarena. That's not radio noise, Finn. That's language. Or instructions. Feels directive. Pointy. He paced, his photographic memory already cataloging every nuance of sound, the equipment set up, the dying plant. Okay, Spill, what's the weirdest side effect besides dead ferns? Finn hesitated. Last night, during the peak, I swear I felt it, not just heard. A pressure, like it was pushing, try and make contact on a level I don't understand. And I had this image, clear as day, not my own, deep water, crushing dark, and something angular, dormant. Gabriel moved a coherer receiver, his long fingers hovering inches above the glass tube. He didn't touch it. He didn't need to. The emotional resonance clinging to the device was a physical blow. Finn's initial excitement curdled into deep-seated fear, but beneath that, like bedrock, was a cold, focused intent of the signal's originator. It carried no malice, only a terrifying, single-minded imperative. He closed his eyes, focusing past the human fear, seeking the pattern within the alien resonance. It's not trying to communicate with you, Finn, he said softly, his voice tight. It's broadcasting, a beacon, or a wake-up call. He turned, his sea-glass eyes sharp. You said Marconi's men heard voices. Local fishermen, too. What if they weren't ghosts? What if they were echoes? The last time this signal activated. Milo snapped his fingers. The probe. Finn, you mentioned local legends about voices on foggy nights. Fog, water vapor, excellent conductor for certain EM frequencies, right? Maybe Marconi's gear was powerful enough to pick up a faint echo of the same signal back then, maybe when probe last checked in, or malfunctioned? And now you blasted it with a full-strength 1903 style hello, right down its original comms channel. He grabbed a notebook, sketching frantically. Deep water, angular, abandoned probe? Makes sense. Cape Cod base shells off dramatically. Perfect place for something to park and nap for a few millennia. Gabriel nodded, his mind racing, cross-referencing the signal structure with cryptologic principles, ancient Earth languages, anything that might provide a key. The cold purpose resonated with a pattern he'd seen in dormant military systems. Automated restart sequences. A wake-up call. And if Milo's intuition is right in Finn's vision, it's underwater, long abandoned. This signal isn't just pinging it. It's transmitting instructions. Complex ones. Reboot protocols. Finn paled. Reboot? Reboot what? And why is my grass dead? Energy, Gabriel stated. Highly focused, non-terrestrial EM radiation. It's interacting with the local bioelectrical fields, disrupting them, like microwaving a plant, but on a subtler, more pervasive frequency. The probe, when active, likely emitted similar fields. Its resting state might have a passive signature that subtly influenced this area for centuries, hence the persistent legends, the feeling of unease. He pointed to the analyzer screen, showing the latest signal burst. See this modulation here? It's not just data. It's carrier wave. It's power. It's trying to remotely energize its target. The next few days were a blur of focused dread. Gabriel set up camp in Finn's container, becoming one with the alien signal. He ran complex decryption algorithms he developed for scientific horizons, searching for linguistic structures, mathematical constants embedded in the noise. He cross-referenced the signal's unique energy signature with geological surveys and historical anomaly reports from the Cape Cod Bay Area. The cold, purposeful resonance was a constant weight on his empathic senses, a chilling counterpoint to the warmth of Milo's presence as he fetched food, coffee, and obscure reference texts, and kept Finn from spiraling into panic with well-timed, absurdist humor. Think of it like a cosmic toaster. Milo quipped during a tense moment, handing Gabriel fresh coffee. Probe's been unplugged. Signals the finger hitting defrost. We just gotta figure out what setting it's on before it burns down the kitchen. Probably annihilate. Gabriel managed a thin smile. Milo's chaotic energy was a necessary lifeline, grounding him. Milo's intuition flared constantly, a sudden need to check a specific frequency band leading to the discovery of a secondary, encrypted data stream. A gut feeling to look at old Navy sonar maps revealing a peculiar, uncharted metallic anomaly resting on the edge of the Stellwagen Bank Canyon, precisely where Finn had envisioned it. Finally, after a marathon 36-hour session fueled by Milo's espresso and sheer intellectual will, Gabriel broke through a layer of encryption. He didn't understand the language. It was too alien, too fundamentally different, but he grasped the intent encoded within the mathematical framework. He stared at the decoded schematic flickering on his screen, a cold knot forming in his stomach. "It's not just rebooting," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "It's initiating a phase reactivation, and it requires resources, massive power surges, far beyond what Finn's transmitter or even the local grid can provide." Milo leaned over his shoulder, his usual levity gone. "Resources? Like what?" "Whale songs. Tourist dollars." Gabriel zoomed in on a specific section of the schematic, overlaying it with a map of Cape Cod. His finger traced a line from the underwater anomaly. "Look, the activation sequence targets specific points, high-energy output locations." His finger landed on symbols superimposed over the map. Otis Air National Guard Base, the Massachusetts Military Reservation, including Camp Edwards and its extensive training grounds. The Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station, dormant but still housing spent fuel rods and massive transformers. It's mapping a path, a circuit. It's going to try and draw the power it needs directly from these facilities, by any means necessary. Finn stared, aghast. Draw power? How? Hack the grid? Cause a meltdown? Start a fire? "Unknown," Gabriel said grimly. "The signal carries command protocols. Subroutine activation. It could trigger cascading system failures, overloads, even direct remote manipulation control systems if the probe's tech is advanced enough. The schematic implies inducing resonant frequencies in power lines and transformers, forcing massive, uncontrolled discharges towards the probe's location. The energy drain here," he pointed to station ruins, "is just the backscatter, the overflow, the main surge. It will be catastrophic at the source points. Military bases, a nuclear facility." Milo was already on his phone, his photographic memory, recalling Gabriel's earlier geological cross-references. "Got it. That metallic anomaly? It's sitting on a major geological fault line. Not super active, but enough. Gabe, what if the power surge isn't just for the probe? What if it's also meant to stimulate the fault, trigger seismic activity, a localized quake to dislodge the probe, shake off the sediment?" His face was pale. "Otis, the military reservation, Pilgrim, they're not just power sources. They're anchors. Ground zero." The implications hung heavy in the ozone-charged air. This wasn't just about restarting an ancient probe. It was about harvesting terawatts of power from critical infrastructure, potentially causing meltdowns, explosions, fires, and triggering an earthquake, all to free and reactivate a piece of alien technology whose purpose was terrifyingly unknown. And the signal was growing stronger, the intervals between bursts shortening. The probe was responding. The countdown had begun. Finn sank onto a stool, head in his hands. "This is my fault. I woke it up. I brought you the signal, but now, what do we do?" "I can shut down the transmitter, cut the signal off at the source." Hope wore with terror in his voice. Gabriel closed his eyes, focusing past the pounding of his own heart, reaching out with his empathic sense towards the signal source, towards a cold intelligence behind it. He felt the relentless drive of the reboot sequence, the absolute focus on reactivation. He felt no awareness of collateral damage, no concept of the fragile life forms inhabiting this world. Only purpose. And then, as he pushed deeper, brushing against the edges of the signal's intent, he felt something else, a safeguard, a brutal, automated response protocol woven into the very fabric of the transmission, a dead man switch. If we sever the signal abruptly. Gabriel's voice was barely audible, strained with the effort of sensing. It interprets it as catastrophic failure of the activation node. This node, he gestured around the container. The protocol, it triggers a failsafe, a high-energy pulse, not directed anymore, omnidirectional, designed to eliminate the faulty node and anything near it. He opened his eyes, meeting Finn's terrified gaze. It would be an EMP, but magnitude stronger than anything natural or human-made. Focused locally, but devastating. It would fry every circuit, every piece of electronics for miles. Possibly induce neurological damage in living things caught in the field. South Wellfleet, Truro, maybe even Provincetown would go dark. Permanently. And the probe? It would simply go silent again, waiting for the next fool to stumble upon its frequency. He paused, the weight of the choice crushing. Shutting down unleashes its wrath. Here. Now. Silence descended, thick and suffocating. The gentle hum of the equipment suddenly sounded like a mocking countdown. Milo broke it, his voice uncharacteristically quiet. So, option A. Let the probe siphon power from military bases and nuke plant, possibly causing meltdowns, explosions, fires, and an earthquake to boot, waking up God knows what. Option B. Pull the plug here now, and turn the outer Cape into a high-tech wasteland and potentially fry everyone's brains. Did I miss option C? Convince the ancient alien toaster that it's had enough nap time, and could it please go back to sleep? Finn looked sick. There is no good choice. I'm responsible. I have to shut it down, take the hit here, and condemn everyone within a 20-mile radius? Gabriel countered, his voice sharp. Including Milo? Including yourself? Including countless innocent people? Sacrificing this part of the Cape won't stop the probe forever. Someone else, someday, might trigger it again. The threat remains. He paced, the cold alien purpose a constant pressure against his mind. We need another way. We need to disrupt the sequence without triggering the failsafe. We need to answer it, but not with obedience. Milo's eyes lit up. Answer it. Gabe, you're a genius. The signal's a wake-up call, right? Hello? Are you there? Execute reboot protocol alpha. What if we answer, but we answer wrong? Send back noise? Junk data? A cosmic new phone who dis? Gabriel stopped pacing. Milo's chaotic spark had ignited something. A misdirection. He looked at the complex waveforms. The protocol expects a specific handshake confirmation from the activation node after each instruction packet. If it doesn't receive the correct confirmation, it might interpret it as a partial failure. Not catastrophic enough for the EMP, but enough to stall the sequence. Initiate diagnostic loops. Buy us time. Time for what? Finn asked, hope flickering. Time to get to the real source, Gabriel said, his gaze turning towards the unseen bay. Time to find that probe. Time to convince Scientific Horizons, the Navy, someone with real resources, that there's an alien artifact about to suck the Eastern Seaboard dry. We jam its comms locally by a window, and then we go shut it down properly. The plan was audacious, terrifying, and hinged on Gabriel's cryptologic skill, Milo's intuition, and Finn's intimate knowledge of his jury-rigged equipment. Gabriel isolated the confirmation signal structure, a complex harmonic echo embedded within the main transmission. Using Finn's transmitter, they needed to broadcast a signal that mimicked the probe's expected confirmation pulse, but subtly altered, just enough to be wrong. A digital stutter, a corrupted echo. The next signal burst arrived, vibrating the container floor. Gabriel monitored the complex patterns, his fingers flying over the keyboard, isolating the confirmation window. Now, Finn, modulate carrier wave at 142.3 MHz, amplitude 85%. Inject phase shift of 12 degrees now. Finn threw switches, adjusting dials with sweat-slicked hands. The transmitter roared. They were broadcasting back into the incoming signal, a carefully crafted lie of compliance. Silence. The analyzers showed their signal colliding with the alien transmission. Seconds stretched like centuries. Then the incoming signal stuttered. The complex waveform fragmented. The guttural tones dissolved into chaotic static. It didn't stop, but it lost its relentless, building rhythm. It started repeating a shorter, looping sequence. Diagnostic mode. It worked! Finn gasped, slumping against the console. It bought in. It's confused. Milo hooped, clapping Finn on the back. Told you. Cosmic who dis for the win. Okay, Gabe, windows open. How long? Unknown. Gabriel said, already packing gear. Hours. Maybe a day if we're lucky. We need to move. Finn, you stay here. Monitor the signal. If it starts rebuilding the activation sequence, if it stops the diagnostic loop, you jam it again. Use the same modulation parameters. Keep it confused. He grabbed a heavy backpack. Milo, we need a boat. Fast. And we need to call in every favor Scientific Horizons has with the Coast Guard or the Navy. That probe needs to be found and neutralized before it decides our answers aren't good enough. Milo was already dialing, his voice shifting into a flawless, urgent imitation of a high-ranking naval officer. Admiral Henderson's office, please. Priority Alpha. This is Agent Sterling, Scientific Horizons Deepwater Division. We have confirmation of a hostile, non-terrestrial object initiating an unauthorized power draw on critical U.S. infrastructure within the Cape Cod Bay sector. Grid compromise and seismic event imminent. Request immediate deep water reconnaissance and interdiction at coordinates. He rattled off the location of the anomaly from Gabriel's map, winking at Gabriel. Improv, baby. Sometimes you gotta speak their language. As they raced toward Provincetown Harbor to commandeer a fast boat Scientific Horizons kept on standby, Gabriel felt the cold purpose of the probe shift. The diagnostic loop was active, but beneath it, he sensed a new subroutine probing, testing the integrity of the activation node. Their deception hadn't gone unnoticed. It was buying time, but the alien intelligence was skeptical. The wrath wasn't unleashed, but it was simmering, analyzing their lie. The race wasn't just a probe. It was against the awakening suspicion of an ancient machine that viewed their world as nothing more than a power source to be tapped. The ghosts of Cape Cod weren't just echoes of the past. They were the harbingers of a future balance on a knife edge, and Gabriel Sterling was the only compass pointing toward a path that didn't end in fire or silence. And so, the ledger on this particular strangeness closes, for now. The signal still loops in confusion over South Wellfleet, a ghost in the machine held at bay by a carefully crafted lie. Gabriel and Milo race across the dark, choppy waters of Cape Cod Bay, chasing the shadow of an ancient threat resting on the edge of an abyss. Will they find the probe? Can they silence it before it sees through their deception, or before the authorities they've summoned arrive with guns blazing instead of solutions? The answers lie beneath the waves, in the cold, silent dark. Remember, the world hums with more mysteries than answers. Keep your eyes open, your mind curious, and perhaps carry a spare coffee for a friend facing down the void. This is Percy Hawthorne, reminding you, the archive is never truly complete. Good night.